Here we are. We've got a guest on this week.
Hello. How are you two?
Very lovely. This is Noel West, who's come on to do a bit of a talk about South Bristol, as we thought. You know, we talk a lot about Bristol Rovers and this side of the town. Like, we thought we'd broaden our horizons because we know we've got a lot of different sorts of listeners.
You have, yeah. And first of all, can I just say, I was going to slap you two for all the abuse you've been giving Bristol City, but I think you're both very funny and you've charmed me, and I'm a big fan now. So
That's
I'm gonna.
good.
Oh, you can ask me anything you like. What do you want to chat about?
Comedy's the best defence in the
Well, we thought because of all the riotous behaviour that's been going on recently, and we know you lived over in South Bristol in the 80s.
Yeah, I did in the 80s, the 70s, and the 60s. Yeah.
Got your stripes.
I have, yeah. So what do you want to chat about? You want to chat about the riots now, or the riots in the past, or?
Well, a bit of both, really. I mean, what were you involved in back then? Would you have Hartcliffe?
Well, at Hartcliffe in '92. Should we chat about that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, for your younger listeners, probably can't remember. In the summer of '92, two lads, I won't say their names because their families have suffered enough, nicked a police car, a police motorbike, a top of the range motorbike, and the cops, without telling their people above them, went out on a mission to get that bike back at whatever cost.
Right.
And they saw the lads on the bike, and instead of arresting them, they swerved up to them and basically, well, to cut a long story short, killed them. But the two kids come off the bike dead, and obviously there was a big cover up by the Evening Post in the usual suspects, as there is now with the ongoing riots in the moment. But fantastically, the people of Hartcliffe went out that night and basically had a pop at the cops, and there was about 3 nights of rioting. The first night, as is the case, was just the locals came out. The second night, basically everybody from South Bristol and further afield came out, and it was one of the best nights ever. Helicopters, hundreds of riot cops, and Noel West, Hartcliffe, who up to that point had there was a bit of bad feeling, united against the cops, and they went on for a third night, and then I think the fourth night it rained. By then the cops had it sewn up, but the message was put over that there's a price to pay if you kill us.
Totally, innit? That's what's got to be done. And what about aftermath? Like, sort of, was it the same reaction? Was the same sort of? You mentioned the Evening Post. Like, did the media go after you?
The media used all the same stories about outside agitators, and I mean, you have to remember that Hartcliffe is a white working class estate, which has basically been dumped on the edge of nowhere. So no one cares about it. Evening Post don't give a fuck about them normally, but all of a sudden, Evening Post suddenly cared about the people. Bringing their area into disrepute and blah, blah, blah. The Evening Post has probably had to look at an A to Z to find out where Hartcliffe was, because obviously all their journalists live in Clifton and that. But it was a great time because, contrary to what you read in the papers, and this applies to the riots at the moment, I felt a lot safer that night than you would walking around the city centre, because people stuck together, black, white, and there are a few black families there, and there's a few black families from Noel West who came over. I won't mention any names, but they're quite well-known families. And everybody stuck together. You felt totally safe. This is women as well, And it was just us against them, us against the cops. They killed 2 of us, and people were seriously up for doing something to them.
So this is the thing, like, sort of, from what you're saying, and like you say, you're a political man. People are saying after this one, it was nothing to do with politics. It was just mindless violence and things like that. But like you were saying, it sounds like what you're saying about Hartcliffe is it definitely was political, because it felt like everyone was standing together, and it was an attack on a cop.
Yeah, it was, and I think there was a general feeling that people in that era particularly been treated like shit, for so long. You have to remember this was '92, and we'd had 13 years of the Tory government, despite the fact that South Bristol continually voted Labour. And if you look at the pictures in the 80s, it was a sea of blue, apart from London, in the south, apart from one red dot, which was South Bristol. So democracy was a joke. We'd been voting against the Tories for all those years. We'd been dumped on that estate, poor services. Despite all when it was built, the estate was supposed to have all these different services. but they never came.
Right.
You know, and you're just dumped on that estate, treated like shit. And basically, the cops were basically saying, "You're all criminals, and if we want to kill you, we can kill you, and we have done." And basically, what are you going to do about it? And they got the hiding of their life. You know, and they were for 3 or 4 nights. They had to, you know, they got a little bit of retribution.
Yeah. And what was it like after that then? Like, sort of, did the coppers change their, you know, were they a bit more respectful of the people that lived there after that?
There was a bigger police presence for a while, but I certainly, and the court case went on for a long time. And I was involved with Class War then, and we did a lot of work around there. And I remember handing out Class War stuff, and because we were the only political group who were saying, you know, you did really well. This is the only answer to police violence. All the leftists and all the other political people, the Labour Party, weren't interested. And people were coming up, shaking me by the hand and saying, "Yeah, at last someone gives a fuck about us," because they're just left there, you know, and the left aren't interested.
Wrong type of riot, isn't it?
Yeah, wrong type of riot. Yeah, wrong type of people, and yeah, it set a good example.
Yeah.
Cool. Despite all that good stuff, you're still a City fan.
Yeah.
You can build a city in Somerset. It's in Somerset, mate. I'm glad to get out of it. Well, I don't know. Thanks for that. That
That's
was
okay.
interesting. And so, like, what do you feel about like sort of what's happening now? Do you feel like it's sort of the
History
wheels
repeating
turning
itself.
again, kind of thing? You know,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
People reaching the end of their tether again.
To me, it feels like 81, and which for the younger listeners, they probably don't remember. There was a whole summer of riots, and they were very similar to the ones we've just had. There was a mass unemployment, and very similar. The young people felt they had no future. Basically, if you're young now, even if you've got a degree, you've got no chance of getting a job. All you're going to get offered is temporary work. If you want to buy a house, you've got absolutely no chance. Even renting in Bristol's a joke now, because so many, you know, fucking idiots are moving down from London and places like that, moving down here. Prices are too high. There's no jobs. You get a trade. There's a million other people, you know, a million other plumbers. You get a degree. You know, who the fuck needs a media studies degree? There's fucking millions of people doing that. You know, so at the moment there's a feeling of apathy, and you know, there's no future. And so people, and you know, why the fuck shouldn't they smash shops up?
Totally. You know, we said that before. It's like, you know, if you got. The only thing that stops people rioting is people saying, "Fucking hell, well, I can't have a record because of my job, or my mum and dad are going to kill me, or you know, or just like fear in it, basically." Like everyone else is like, "Fuck it, let's roll."
And another important thing to remember is, which is particularly nauseating with the media, is that we are constantly bombarded with images of we should have this, you should own this, you should own a fucking Boss jacket, you should own these trainers, you should own this, or else you're nothing, you're scum. Well, if you've got no job and no chance of earning a decent wage, then what the logical answer to that is to go and nick it. You know, fuck the shops.
When you get a chance, innit? Yeah, that's it.
And also, you know, no one ever needs an excuse to have a pop at the cops.
No, you're right there. Oh, coppers. So when you say when you were saying about, because you were talking earlier about sort of your younger days as a City fan.
Yes.
And your devotion to touring around the country.
I used to follow Bristol City. Yeah, I used to. Because again, going back to where you're from, I mean, I'm sure you'll agree that we don't support Bristol City or Bristol Rovers because, I mean, if we lived in Middlesbrough, we lived in Bombay, we wouldn't support those two teams. We support those two teams because if you come from a working class area, that's one of the things you've got. That's one of the few things you've got. You support that team out of loyalty to that team.
Aye.
So, you know, we were discussing this earlier on. You know, if you asked me to name the 11 players for Bristol City, I couldn't tell you, but I still support them every week because they're from, you know, that's the South Bristol team, and yeah, I used to go away with them, and again, same as Raj. And if you go to anybody who's listening to this who's been on a away day with a firm knows that you could be treated like shit all week by your boss, but on one day you are kings of the day. You're fearless, and but that said, you know, I started to change about football hooliganism because you look at Rovers fans, for example, and I'm looking at you two nice fellas here now, and you think there's no point in being these two up because they're the same as me. You know, they're just from their estates or wherever you're from, and really we should be attacking better targets. So that's why I gave it up. But yeah, it was a laugh for a few years. Yeah.
And what would you suggest would be a better target?
You know what? You know exactly what I'm going to say.
I'm just trying to incriminate
I'll
you.
give you an example. When Rovers used to play in Bath, we used to go down to what we called Trumpton. It was Twerton Park, because you didn't have a ground.
All right.
Awfully sorry about that. And I know some City fans burnt that ground down in one time. I'm sorry about that as well. But
Thanks for the apology.
you used to get, when I used to go there, it used to be a laugh, but you kind of felt like, you know, we should be doing something together. We should be attacking the rich of Bath, for example, or we should be attacking the cops. Or, as quite often we used to do on away days, we'd go shoplifting. You'd go and nick all the clothes that you couldn't afford under the cover of the game. You'd have 3,000 cops outside Twerton, and you could go down John Anthony. Sorry, John Anthony, I love your clothes. And
Too much.
go and nick a Stone Island jacket you couldn't possibly afford. You know.
So we'll be looking forward to a visit from the cops then after that, that long and detailed chat. Like.